All right, welcome to Widespread English, the TOEFL Introduction webinar. My name is Sean. I live out here in Denver, Colorado, in the United States, and I've been teaching TOEFL for about 10 years, and I've had students from all over the world at every level, and I thought that I would kind of give a brief overview for my first webinar. I think that there are many different things that we can go over and different tips and tricks going through the reading, the listening, the speaking, and the writing section. But today, I really just want to go over kind of the exam for those people that, maybe they don't know much about the test, or they are interested kind of just getting a refresher. So, it's good to know this information before you take the test, so you know exactly what is going to come and exactly what the test will be like when you take it. Of course, if you've been studying, you may be familiar with a lot of these concepts, and that's completely understandable. Hopefully that this will prove to be a good reminder or a good refresher of some information, and I hope that some tips and tricks will be new for you or help you in your studying, kind of looking where to focus, the most important things, things like that. So let's get started. So I would like to do, my plan is to do a webinar every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I know I got students from all over the world. I have students in Pakistan, I have students in South America, Russia, Africa, Nigeria. So that means that there are, maybe it's not a good time for everyone. Some people it might be the morning, some people it might be the evening, but I'm hoping that I can do this every Wednesday and cover different topics. So I'm planning on next week going over the reading section, then the listening section, speaking and writing, of course, and then different skills like time management and study habits and things like that. So if you are not available on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, I suggest that you I will record all of these like I'm recording today, and you can watch these on your own time. So like I said, there'll be different topics each week, and if you are just studying for the reading section, for example, you can kind of watch that and rewatch it on your own time. I will post these videos. Okay, so the question that I get the most, number one question on the TOEFL, is how can I pass the TOEFL? And I think that's an interesting question because there really is no like pass or fail on the TOEFL exam. You have a score from 0 to 120. 120 is a perfect score. I've never had a student get a 120. I myself haven't gotten quite to 120. The highest that I have seen a student get would be 114, but which is a phenomenal score. I think that everyone makes a mistake here and there, so 120. I have yet to see it in my 10 years of teaching the test. Now, to pass the test, it's really about, well, what school am I trying to go to? Who needs this TOEFL exam? Some universities have lower scores that you need. Some universities have higher. I tend to see like science classes and mathematics courses, things that you maybe don't need English so much, require a little bit lower score. And then law schools and social studies and things where you're going to be doing a lot of reading and presenting in English will require a higher score. So in general, so of course this can vary, and some students do very well on the exam, some they get test anxiety, they don't score as well as their level. but generally I would see like a lower intermediate would be usually, so this would be like a B1. They are tend to get between a 70 and 80 score. So yeah, so usually most like undergraduate programs will ask for somewhere between 70 and 80. So you don't have to have a really great complete knowledge of English. You just kind of have to be in that functional intermediate level to get that score. As we get up, if you're kind of a high intermediate, that score usually I can see students between 80 and 90. I really think that 90 is kind of the defining point, the defining score between an intermediate and an advanced student. So like lower advanced students, I tend to see 90 to 100, and then our really high advanced fluent speakers, I tend to see 100 to 120. So usually when I meet with a student and I talk to them, I can get a good sense of what their score would be just by the vocabulary that they use, the way they speak. If I look at some of their writing, I can really just say, okay, you're a lower intermediate student. I can expect you to get this score. Usually, without studying or just starting, you probably get on the lower end of that score, and then with with some studying, maybe a month of practice, we can get you to the higher end of that score. So I like to tell my students that if you study hard and you work with me for at least a month, then I can get you at least a 10-point increase on your TOEFL score. So let's kind of review the sections. Some of you already know this, but just a quick review here. So the reading is 60 minutes to 80 minutes. Now, some people, they take the test and they only have 3 passages. And some people, they report and they say, my reading section was actually a little longer. It was 4 passages. And the way that will work is that you will try and spend 20 minutes per passage. And if you get 4 passages, what that means is that 3 will count and towards your score, but 1 is kind of it's a practice or a test for future TOEFL sections. So you are kind of experimenting, and they are going to see, how did the students score, how did they do, and use it for a future test, but it will not count for your score. Unfortunately, you don't know which, if it's the first one, if it's the second, third, or fourth. So you don't know which passage is going to be the one that doesn't count. So I encourage you to do your best. At the same time, if you feel you did really bad on one section or one passage, you say, I didn't understand it and it was so difficult, don't get discouraged, because there's a chance that that passage just will not count for anything. So I really encourage students, if you get a very difficult passage, maybe it is a test. Maybe it is something that that will not count. So I encourage you to keep going. Just read each passage as they are. Some are going to be easier than others. Some passages will have topics that you like. Some passages will have topics that you do not like. So, as we say, no matter if it's 3 or 4 passages, you want to spend about 20 minutes per passage. This is something that I really encourage students to practice. Time management is very important, and if you spend too long on the first passage, then you're going to really limit yourself into the next 2 passages. So you will be kind of on a time crunch, and you don't want to have all only a few minutes remaining for a lot of questions. So Remember, 20 minutes per passage. There will be a clock on the test, and that um, you can kind of keep track of your time and how you're doing. All right, so the next section will be the listening section. This will be 60 minutes. You will have 6 listening passages, 2 conversations, and 4 lectures. The way that will work will be you have a conversation, then 2 lectures. And then you will have your second conversation and 2 lectures. I like to say the conversations are a lot easier. It's a good way to start and get yourself into the listening section. It's always a man and a woman, and a conversation is just slower. It goes back and forth, and so there's lots of pauses and time for you to kind of hear what everyone is saying. The lectures, on the other hand, can be a little bit more challenging. So I really encourage note-taking, and many of my students, they don't take notes as much as they should, and that's going to be a lesson that I will do in the future on note-taking. Even if you understand it, the lectures can be almost 5 minutes long, which is a really long time, and which means that you can easily forget. So even if you understood, you might forget what they mentioned at the beginning of the lecture. So I think that's really important to take notes. The speaking section is your shortest section. So the speaking section will follow a break. It's nice. You can go out, you can get some water, use the restroom, and when you come back, you will do your speaking section. Again, this will be another its own webinar that I will just go through all the speaking sections, the speaking questions. It's nice that they all go in the exact same order. So they never change. It's always going to be in the same order. So if you can practice those 6 questions in the order, you know exactly what the next question will be and what you're expected to do for that. Finally, we have the writing section, which is, they say 50, I think with directions and everything, will be about an hour. The first thing you have to do is an integrated. The integrated will be a reading, and then you will listen, and then you will compare the reading to the listening. So they'll have 3 main points in the reading, 3 main points in the listening, and then you have to write about how the reading and the listening compare to each other. That's a little bit shorter because you're not required to write as long. So that's going to be the first writing that you do, and then following that, you will have the last thing you do on the test is an independent writing for 30 minutes. They will give you a prompt, and you will just have to write an essay about that prompt. Okay, so my first tip and trick, and I want everyone that's taking the TOEFL exam to really keep this in mind. This is called the 50-50 rule. And 50-50 refers to the percentage of the chance that you have to guess if you do not know the answer. So the way it works is like this. So every question on the reading and the listening is going to be multiple choice, A, B, C, or D. So you have 4 questions, and some questions you'll be able to answer easily, but some you will have trouble with. Of course, everyone has trouble with some of the questions. And the way that I like to approach this question is to follow this 50-50 guide. So a really good TOEFL question will have 2 clearly incorrect answers. Okay, so you say A and D, these are definitely not the answers, but I am between answer B and C. So one choice should be very close to the correct answer. So I normally see a good question where 2 people can eliminate 2 answers, but then they're stuck between the 2 choices. So, of course, if you don't know the answer at all, and you're just guessing A, B, C, or D, well, you're going to have a 25% chance that you get the answer correct. And this is quite low. You don't want to go through the whole test just making random guesses. You're not going to get a very high score with that. If you can eliminate 3 answers, then we can see that our chances goes up just slightly. Right? If just eliminating 1 answer really increases your odds that you will guess the correct answer. So even if you just know, okay, C, definitely not the answer, but I don't know A, B, or D, I'm going to have to guess. At least eliminating 1 increases your chances. Now, if you're just left with B and C, and you do not know the difference, I don't know the answer, I don't know if it's B, I don't know if it's C, what do I do? This is what we call our 50-50. This is the best place to be on the exam if you don't know the answer completely. So just to be at between 2 answers is a good place to be. It's the highest percentage that you will have that you can randomly guess. So I don't know if it's B, I don't know if it's C, I'm just going to go with my instinct and choose B. Now, it may not be the correct answer, but this is a good way to know, okay, there's nothing else I can do. I'm going to have to just take the 50-50 chance. And many times that can work out in your favor. So if you have a really tough question, don't worry, just go through this 50-50 rule, and hopefully you get the correct answer. Okay, so what I will start now is kind of go through just basics of each section. And the first section that you will have on the TOEFL is your reading section. For many people, reading is a very difficult section. It takes a lot of your energy to focus and follow the time. Make sure you do everything in 20 minutes. So I'm going to go over the question types so we know, and then a couple tips and tricks here. So I think the easiest ones, the most straightforward, the most direct questions are going to be your fact and your negative fact questions. So for each passage, you will have about 14 questions. And fact and negative fact are just, they ask you, well, what is the answer? What is happening here? And I think that those are something that people are very familiar with. All you have to do is kind of go to the passage, look at the paragraph, and find the answer. The negative fact, on the other hand, they give you 3 correct answers, and 1 answer is not correct. So the way that I like to do that is I like to, let's see here if I can, I don't know if I can write on here. No. So if we had A, B, C, and D, what we would do is we would eliminate A. I know there I found the answer. We can cross off A. I found the answer for B. I can cross that off. And I don't see C, but I find D. I can cross that off. So your answer is going to be the choice that is not mentioned. So that's why we call it a negative fact question. Which one is not included? Vocabulary and reference questions, we have about 3 or 4, so you see a lot of them. I always tell students vocabulary can be the easiest or the most difficult question on the TOEFL exam. If you are familiar with the word, it's going to be very easy. You can take a look, you can eliminate choices. Of course, there's going to be one that's very close, but you can kind of take a look and say, okay, well, what do those two words mean? What's the difference between those two choices? And make your answer. I encourage you while you're studying to make a list of vocabulary words. Those vocabulary words will come up again. So if you see, if you're practicing and you're studying and you don't see a word you don't know, write it down, look up the definition and how you use it in the sentence. There's a very good chance that you could see those same words again. I know the TOEFL exam likes to use some of the same types of and level of vocabulary on the exam. So it's really important to study and have a vocabulary list and constantly increase your vocabulary. Everyone can keep doing better on their vocabulary. There are even words, I'm an English teacher, and there are some English words that I am still learning today. So I encourage you to constantly keep updating your vocabulary. Reference questions, I don't see as much, but those are going to, you have a word like they, and you have to say, okay, what does they refer to? What are they talking about here with that word they? Let's see here. Inference questions are, excuse me, inference questions are a little bit trickier than fact questions. Usually we have 2 or 3 of these on the exam, and that's going to be, they don't have the exact, you can't find it exactly, but you have to read around the paragraph to make an educated guess on what they mean. I will do another webinar specifically on inference questions. I do see these as challenging for a lot of students. Text insertion question, there's always one. This is the question where you have A, B, C, D squares, and you have to insert a sentence in the right position. So you have to kind of read the whole paragraph and say, where does this sentence that I have, where does it fit into the text? Sentence simplification, always one question on there as well. That's going to be the highlighted question. And you have to find a sentence that is very similar. It has the same meaning and doesn't leave out any important information. And finally, the last one is the prose summary. This one is really tricky for students, but I think with a little practice and knowing what the question is, it can really help. This one, you have 6 choices, and you have to choose the 3 the 3 main ideas of the entire passage. Again, in a future webinar, you will go through and just practice those questions. So I encourage you to follow along and sign up. I will send emails and let you know what the webinars will be. Okay, tips and tricks. I really think it is important not to read the entire passage. I think that it takes too long, and the TOEFL exam is not asking you to understand the entire passage. They just want you to answer the questions correctly. So I really encourage you to read paragraph by paragraph. Focus on just paragraph 1 and the questions related to it. The TOEFL questions will go in sequential order, meaning that they will ask you about paragraph 1 first, and then they will ask you about paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 and so on. They will not skip around. So it's not a situation where, oh, they're going to ask you about paragraph 4 and then go back to paragraph 1. It doesn't work that way. So what's nice is that as you go through and answer your questions, you will end up reading all of the entire paragraph or the entire passage. You're going to read paragraph 1 and answer those questions, paragraph 2, answer those questions. By the time you're done, you have read the entire passage or almost the entire passage. Another thing is they will tell you in the question which paragraph to look at. So it will say, in paragraph 1, what is the answer, or what is happening here? If they tell you it's in paragraph 1, well, just focus on that paragraph. You don't have to read anything beyond it. You don't have to read anything before it. So if they do say, okay, this is in paragraph 3, just focus on paragraph 3. The final prose summary question, it's always at the end. It's always the last question. And it does cover the entire paragraph. The thing you remember is that you have answered all those questions from those previous paragraphs, and you have read it already. So you will be going back and reviewing those at the very end, but you should have an idea of what is talked about and kind of what the main ideas are after you've answered all the questions. The TOEFL kind of takes you through the entire paragraph. All right, so that's it for the reading section. The next section here is our listening section. As I mentioned, there are 6 listening passages. So you will start off with a conversation, which is quite easy. Most of my students don't have too much difficulty with that. You will have 2 academic lectures. Again, some topics will be things that you like. Some students might like art and history. Other students might like science and biology. So it really kind of depends what you like, but they vary all the topics. So you will get a science, you will get history, you will get like an art, music, something like that. Theater is very popular as well. So just be aware that they're going to cover many different topics. They do this on purpose so that you don't, if you're a really science person, you'll get one science, but then you'll have to do a history. If you're a big history person, you'll for sure get one of those, but then you will also get a science lecture. This is just to kind of give everyone a fair shot at all of the lectures. Okay, the listening section, the tips and tricks. The number one issue I have with TOEFL students, every time I get a new student and we do the listening, I always check to see if they take notes. And I would say 90% of students do not. This is because, for many students, it's very difficult to take notes and listen at the same time. And I certainly can understand that. It's a skill that needs to be practiced. At first, many people, they just can't. I have to pay attention, but then I have to take notes. How do I do this? So in again, in another webinar, I will kind of go through some note-taking skills, and we can work on this. The main reason that I encourage note-taking, at least for the main ideas and the organization, is that passages are very long. They're 4 to 5 minutes, and because the passages are so long, it can be very easy to forget what they said at the beginning of the passage. So even if you understood it, you say, oh, I understand this passage, this is fine. When it comes to answering the questions, you were so nervous and you're paying attention and you're trying to get everything, but you kind of tend to remember what happened in like the first minute, or you tend to forget what happened in the first minute. So, okay, I remember what happened in the last minute, but I'm unsure. So it's important that you work on taking notes, and so you can refer back to, okay, here on my notes, I know that they were talking about this historical figure, when they were born, what they did, and you can refer back to that. Because the issue is very difficult, students really struggle, I really encourage you to listen to the beginning of every lecture. There's a lot of information there that will help you throughout the rest. Right in the first 30 seconds is going to tell you exactly what the passage is going to be about. So, you know, you'll listen to something, they'll say, today we're going to talk about these animals and what their effects on the environment. And in that case, you know, okay, this is going to be a cause and effect. Okay, the animals are going to be the cause, and the effect here is going to be this issue with the environment. Or they can tell you, today we're going to be talking to you about the history of airplanes. And if they mention the history and you know that they're going to talk, you can kind of follow along in chronological order. First, this happened, then next, and so you can kind of take notes on the years and what happened during those years and kind of major events. Also, categories. So a lot of times you'll hear a lecture, they'll say, there are 3 types of planets in our solar system. And if you hear, okay, there are 3 types of anything, on the notes, just write down 1, 2, 3, and leave a space. And that way, you will be able to kind of fill those in easily. A lot of these lectures will have target words. So they will say, first, we're going to talk about this. Okay, that first will let you know, okay, this is the first category. Or second, or next, and then we know that we have moved on to our second category. So by listening to those target words and those transition words, it's going to really help you with your notes. And then when you start to answer the questions, you can easily refer to your notes. If they're well organized, it should help you a lot in answering all of your questions. All right, speaking section. Again, I'm going to say this a lot. We will continue. I'm going to do a webinar solely on the speaking section. You know, this is something that makes students very nervous. Some students speak very well. Some struggle with pronunciation and things like that. Practice, practice, practice is the #1 tip and trick that I encourage you to do. If you go to widespreadenglish.com, you will be able to practice online just like the TOEFL exam. Record your voice. It will be sent to me, and I will grade it for you. So I will kind of help you with pronunciation, organization, things like that. So it's really good to kind of see how you're doing and knowing some of the issues and things that you can work on before you take your actual exam. If you look at #1 and #2, those are the independent questions. Independent meaning that all you do is you get a question and then you speak. It's just only speaking. The difference between #1 and 2 is that #1 is free choice, and meaning that they'll ask you a question, you can answer any way that you want. So a question might be, tell me about a vacation that you had with your family and why this vacation was so special. And as we know, from all around the world, everyone will have a different answer. I went to Thailand, or we went to the Maldives, or we traveled to the mountains with my family. So it's free choice. You can speak about anything as long as it's related to the question. #2 is going to be a little different. It's a paired choice. So the most common would be, and we'll see this a little later, is would you prefer vacation in the mountains or the beach? So here you only have 2 choices. You have to choose mountain or the beach, A or B. That's kind of our paired choice here. The integrated 3, 4, 5, and 6 are integrated, meaning that you're going to take different skills, like a reading, a listening, and then speaking. #3 here is you're going to have an announcement, usually from the university. about something going on campus or with the school. And then you will listen to a conversation about it. Usually it's a man and a woman, and they say, oh, that's a great announcement. I'm very happy for these reasons. Or, I don't like that. I really disagree. And then they will give their reasons. So you have to kind of listen. Why did they agree or disagree? You can see number 4 integrated is in red. I mark those in red because it's very difficult. I would say most students find number 4 and number 6 the hardest on the speaking section. They are both academic. So you'll read, in number 4, you'll read a academic passage and then listen to a lecture about that. Usually the lecture will give you more information about it. So for example, if they talk about animals and camouflage, how do they hide themselves in their natural surroundings? And the lecture will kind of give you some examples. Okay, well, this is how this animal camouflages itself, and this is how another animal does it. So they kind of give you usually like examples of the idea that you read about. Number 5 is, I really like number 5. A lot of students like that as well. You will listen to a conversation with 2 students, and they're talking about a problem. I can't hand in my paper on time. I need to talk to the professor, but I don't think that he will understand. So that's kind of the problem, and then the other person will offer a solution. Well, why don't you go see them in the office hours? Why don't you see if you can make up some extra credit? And they give the other student 2 solutions. Your responsibility is to pick which solution you think is best. So you will say, I think solution number 1 is best for 2 reasons. First, they can do this, and second, they can do something else. So it's pretty easy. It's a lot of fun. I think it's very interesting. Students do very well with that. And the last one, number 6, again is in red. This is an academic lecture. So all you have to do is listen to a lecture. And it can be a little long. You have to take notes. And your speaking will be just summarizing the lecture. What was the topic, and what were the main ideas of the lecture? It sounds very straightforward, but again, it's academic, it's listening, and then having to speak and repeat what was being said is very challenging for students. Again, I will do some webinars on that. You can follow along, and we can do some practice. Okay, independent speaking tips and tricks. Just one thing to remember is you only have 15 seconds to prepare and 45 seconds to speak. So preparing it is really, and being ready for the question can help you a lot. I use this outline for all my students. If you can memorize this outline and have it set up before you start questions 1 and 2, so you will write this twice on your notes. If you have this ready to go, you can really make those 15 seconds, you can really answer this efficiently and be ready for the question no matter what you get. So let's do a little practice here. Would you prefer to visit the beach or the mountains for vacation? This is a very common question. It's a very good practice question. You know, a lot of people will say beach. Some people say the mountains. But the answer is the same. The topic is the same, beach. But you know, there's so many different reasons why people like to go to the beach or go to the mountains. So in your 15 seconds, you get the question. Would you prefer to visit the beach or mountains for a vacation? This is paired choice. Well, choose one right away. Which one do you think you can speak about the best? Which one do you have more to say? Doesn't have to be true. A lot of students, they say, well, actually, I really do like the mountains, so I don't want to lie. Well, the TOEFL will never know if you're telling the truth or not. So just choose one that you think you can speak more about. It's easier for you to speak about. So we're going to say, I'm choosing the beach. I would prefer to go to the beach. We just write down beach, just one word. Okay. Then what are your two reasons? Okay, well, it's warm and sunny, so I'm going to put that, warm weather. And also, their activities. So I like to swim. So there's a good one. Now, most students do not get chances to fill in the details. 15 seconds is very short. If you can just get your topic and your two reasons and have a space for the details, this will help you in your independent speaking. The reason I like to have the details there is so you don't forget. One of the biggest issues that I have are people will just list many, many reasons, but no details. So for example, they will say, I prefer to visit the beach because there's warm weather, you can swim, I can eat food, I can be with my family, and they list many, many reasons, but no details. So a good answer would be something like, I prefer to visit the beach rather than the mountains for vacation. First, I really enjoy the warm weather. And then we go into details. So where I'm from, it can get very cold and snow, and so it's very nice for me to go to the beach and get sun and be warm. I also really like to get a suntan. And I just feel very happy in the sun and the warm weather. Secondly, there are many activities that I like to do when I go to the beach, and one of those is swimming. I love going into the ocean. I love the salt water, and it makes me feel refreshed and excited. So there, I didn't write down detail 1, I didn't write down detail 2, but I knew that I would not forget because there is a space there. And that kind of, that forces me to give an example of each main point. All right, finally the last one, and we'll finish here for today, is the writing section. The first thing that you will always do is the integrated, which means you will read and then listen. They're both going to be about the same topic. The reading will give you 3 main points for an argument, and the listening will say 3 main points on the other end, something that disagrees with each topic. So you will write for 20 minutes, and in the writing you will compare and contrast the 3 main points in the reading and the listening. So if point 1 in the reading and point 1 in the listening, they will match and kind of be on the opposite arguments of each other. One that I saw was, okay, organic food is very good for the environment in point 1, and then in the listening they say, well, organic food, it can cause some issues with the environment as well. So you will compare and contrast their main points. Finally, the last thing that you will do on the TOEFL exam is the independent writing. This one, you just get a topic. A common one that I've been working on with students is, do you think children spend too much time on smartphones and screens? Give reasons and details. So with that question, it's your job to write a 4 to 5 paragraph essay. They say about 300 words. To answer this question. Very similar to the speaking, you'll give a main point and then give your reasons and details to support that answer. You can talk about video games, being away from their schoolwork. So you can choose, like, yes, I think screens are a problem, or no, I don't think screens are a problem. But for each one, you have to give a main 2 or 3 main ideas, and then explain why you believe that, and give an example. Again, another webinar just focusing on the independent writing is something that we can do together. And I will continue with this in our series. And so if you really want to work on your independent writing, you can send me an email. You can go to my website, widespreadenglish.com, and let me know that you're having difficulty with either the writing, and I can reach out with some tips and tricks. Again, you can practice your writing on the website. So if you want to type independent writing and submit it, that will come to me, and I will send it back to you, and I will correct your grammar and help you with some of the main points and the organization of your essay. I think it's very good to do this before you take your actual test, so you're kind of prepared and ready for the exam. All right. So thank you very much. This is my first webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful. Like I said, I am going to do a webinar each week. And this is kind of our overview of the whole test, but then I'm going to go through each question and some tips and tricks. So if you are having trouble with a certain section of the TOEFL exam, please send me an email. You can visit me at widespreadenglish.com, and I'd be happy to dedicate a webinar to helping you. So thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking with you and having you join and be part of the Widespread English TOEFL community. Thank you very much.